Howdy everybody, this is Stefan again. If you are joining me once again, welcome back. This is week 2, following my first week in Hokkaido, which there's a posted video of. If you haven't watched that, I would encourage you to watch that, but this is week 2 after I left Hokkaido. I wanted to kind of split the two up because they're almost distinct trips. And so from February 12th to 19th, I visited a handful of cities in Honshu, Japan. That's the main island, Honshu. And so I wanted to walk you through some of my experiences because much like my first week in Hokkaido, I was blown away by Japan. It's definitely my favorite place I've ever visited, and if this presentation does anything to help anybody make the decision to go visit for themselves, that would be the whole point. So I hope this inspires you once again. So, Honshu, Japan. First off, I left from a place that is not in Honshu, Hakodate. So if you can see the map there, we all spent, so Steve and Adam and Justin and Joe and I all spent the first week in southern Hokkaido, based out of Sapporo. And so once they left on Sunday morning, I took the train following that green line, kind of curving down the right side of the island, down to Hakodate, which is at the very southern tip of Hokkaido, which is the northernmost prefecture and island. And Hakodate is just across the Suguru Strait, I think it's Suguru Strait, from Honshu, which is the island to the south of that. So it's kind of an interesting town, but I'll get into that in a sec. But I wanted to say, you know, after all the fun and activity and just being social and going out and having all kinds of friends around me for the first week. The second week was a distinct change, kind of a nice, welcome, quiet me time, Stefan time. So I got to spend the whole week by myself, which was pretty awesome. So I departed Sapporo that morning. Actually about noon, and made it down to Hakodate by Sunday afternoon. And it was kind of the beginning of my new adventure, so kind of a nice refreshing change on my trip. As you can see on the train, awesome food. I bought that from the gal, the stewardess kind of gal who was walking around, and it was awesome. Hakodate. Hakodate is kind of funny town. It's at the very southern tip of Hokkaido, and it's got this, most of Hokkaido really wasn't settled until like the 19th century, or I shouldn't say that. It was settled for, millennia beforehand, but it wasn't really brought under Japanese control and populated by Japanese. The native Ainu population had been there for millennia, but it was largely kind of like the Wild West until Japan started to formally kind of bring it under its control in the 1800s. And therefore it's a lot newer than most of Honshu or the rest of Japan. And it's kind of got these relics from 1800s, like the top right there is like a British consulate. And a lot of the buildings in town are very Western or almost Victorian, I noticed. But very cold, very dark. Kind of fishing town, but it had some charm to it as well, as you can see from some of these pictures. That first night I was not feeling so hot. I was kind of under the weather a little bit, so I walked around town and took some pictures, but it was super cold, so I stopped at this cute little curry spot that was adorable, and it was full of books and all kinds of cool stuff. It was super tiny. I was like one of 3 people in there. I got a fish curry with like a little salad and some rice. Very healthy, very yummy. They had these really beautiful lanterns all in there, so I decided to take a bunch of pictures of those. I'm going to put them into like a little montage pic, I think. But anyhow, it was cute, super cute. Great first dinner by myself. So as you can see from this here, the Hakodate is on the other side of the strait up there, and it goes, the Shinkansen, which is the bullet train, goes underneath the Suguru Strait and then all the way down the length of, half the length of Honshu to Tokyo, where I had to transfer to a different Shinkansen. So this would be Monday. I left early Monday. I left around 6 a.m. on the Shinkansen and ended up in Nagoya halfway down the island by 1:30 p.m. So that's how fast these things move. But just to talk about the train for a moment, oh my God, it was my absolute favorite transportation experience of my life. I was in heaven. I'm a train nerd. This was my train heaven. The Shinkansen from Hakodate, as you can see there on the top left, is just an absolute sexy beast. And that is the fastest Shinkansen in Japan. The nose is designed like that to because when it goes through the tunnel underneath the ocean, it defeats the air blasts, which is pretty rad. And they just actually finished the Shinkansen up to Hokkaido in 2016, so it's just been finished about a year ago. So it's kind of their newest line, but absolutely the epitome of elegance. This thing roars by at 200 miles an hour in complete muffled silence on the interior. It's like you didn't even know you were moving on the inside, and the landscape's moving so fast that you can hardly take a picture because it's moving so fast. Things would pop up, like telephone poles and stuff would pop up before you even could press, take the button to take the picture. It was incredible. But I was in my happy place, by myself on that train, just relaxing. So I kind of slept on and off. It was an early morning that morning, but I slept on and off until I got to Tokyo, where I picked up the second Shinkansen train. You have to change lines. They have kind of different lines all over the country. But this was the line that actually goes to Osaka, but it stops through Nagoya, which was my next stop. So I hopped on this bad boy, this sleek, kind of older model, but beautiful Shinkansen out of Tokyo, which I thought was going to be confusing, which was actually tremendously easy, just like everything in Japan. You're like, oh my gosh, it might be complicated, and then you get into it, and it's like, wow, they made that really easy. So I had plenty of time. On the way down, thank God it was a clear day, because I didn't have clear days later on when I came back this way, but got to see Mount Fuji from both the north and the south. It was spectacular. As you can see from the north, it has quite a bit more snow on it, which would make sense given the sun aspect. But it was magnificent. So cool to just be roaring by on a bullet train, watching Mount Fuji pass by you on the side. And I was even on the right side of the train, which was perfect. It was perfect. I had such a great day on the train. Best day of transportation of my life. Nagoya. It's kind of like the middle child city of Japan. It's not the biggest, but it is extremely wealthy, industry based. It's where like Mitsubishi and I think Toyota and a lot of the big car companies are based out of. A big manufacturing hub. A lot of it was destroyed in World War II, which we'll get to with the castle in a minute. But it was bombed pretty heavily due to its contribution to the industrial manufacturing, kind of system across Japan in World War II. So I think a lot of it is rebuilt. A lot of it is not the old city. A lot of it has just been rebuilt. But the downtown is magnificent. Big buildings, huge buildings, just wealth and money. Oh my God, the fancy cars, the shops. It was quite a scene. But I just walked around all day. Again, I wasn't feeling super great, so I kind of took it easy that day. But if there's one thing that's going to make me feel better, it was the Noodle Master. This was the only time where the language barrier became an issue on my trip, is when I walked into the Noodle Master's kitchen. And I kind of realized before I went in, it wasn't like a Western or tourist spot, because it was just Japanese guys, no English menu, no pictures on the menu. And yet I knew they had exactly what I wanted, which is this dish on the top left. I have no idea what it's called, but it's kind of their famous local dish, which is udon noodles, curry sauce with a breaded fried pork cutlet with miso on it. And it was the best decision of my life. I was hangry from traveling all day, and this guy and I could not converse at all. He kept talking to me in Japanese like I understood it, and I didn't understand a darn word. And so I used this app I have, JSpeak, in order to kind of translate some fundamental pieces of what I wanted to say. It took about 15 minutes of awkward misunderstandings. Finally, I got across what I wanted, and thank God I persevered, because this guy, 80-year-old man, I didn't want to take his picture while he was looking, but 80-year-old man back there behind the counter, making his noodles by hand and boiling them up right in front of you, and it was just unbelievably delicious. It was probably my favorite meal I had my entire trip. The udon noodles melted in your mouth. The fried pork cutlet was savory and rich. The curry was perfect. It made me feel a million times better. Definitely saved my life. And he gave me a bib, so I took a selfie. And then the next day, after kind of relaxing that night, I decided to go see the Nagoya Castle, which is kind of the big castle in town. However, as you'll see, I have a picture of it from the museum inside. But this is a rebuild of the castle. The original, which was hundreds and hundreds of years old, was regrettably destroyed in World War II. It was bombed pretty much to the ground. And so this is a replica of the castle as it was. As you can see, they had some photo ops with samurai, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And some beautiful goldfish, which I think was the symbol for the place. I never really got to the bottom of that, but there was those goldfish everywhere. But this, I did tour the entire castle. It was a great experience. It was absolutely gorgeous. Even though it was a rebuild from historical structure, the code and like the way that they needed to rebuild it in order for it to be an exact replica was really impressive. The craftsmanship was out of this world. It was just gorgeous. They had a whole this whole structure for welcoming guests, which is the pictures on the left there. They had a lot of paintings on the walls. That picture in the bottom right is actually a picture of the original castle burning. It's kind of a sad picture, but they've just like everything in Japanese and I guess you will, if you will, human history. When something gets destroyed, you rebuild, and they've done a wonderful job with rebuilding it. It's really coming along. It's almost finished. I don't think it's quite finished. And then from the top right there, you can see I climbed all those stairs. That's I think it was 6, 8 floors up or something, but they have a whole museum on the inside, and I decided to do the whole thing. So climbed all the way to the top. It was pretty cool. So Nagoya had a lot of other things going on, but in the sake of time, I'm just going to skip ahead to Kyoto. So Kyoto, the thousand-year capital, it's the historic, the primary historic capital of Japan, and it was blessedly spared in World War II. It was actually spared because one of the, and I wish I knew his name, I'll look it up, but one of the top generals in the American Army during World War II had done some studying in Kyoto following college or something, and when they were planning the bomb sites for the nuclear bombs, they were considering Kyoto, and this saint stepped up and said, "No, we cannot bomb that city. It is entirely there's entirely too much history there. That is not an option." And they ended up changing the bomb location from Kyoto to I don't know if it was Hiroshima or Nagasaki, but thankfully they preserved the history of the city because it's something special. It's very gritty and sprawling with these little sanctuaries and temples hidden all over the city. It's just gorgeous. Beautiful trees, beautiful. That's the Kyoto Tower on the right. It's right outside the train station. I stayed right next to it. The pictures on the left are from the Imperial Palace, which is these pictures. So it was a weekday. I guess it was a Tuesday or something. I'm not sure. That I went to Kyoto, or maybe it was a Wednesday, I'm not sure, that I did this walking tour. I walked 15 miles over 10 hours in one day, and my first stop was the Imperial Palace. As you can see, this is just a sample of the myriad of pictures I took, but it was just stunning, absolutely stunning. And I ended up going on a day that nobody else was there. Like, I was walking around by myself. It was completely quiet. It was spectacular. The craftsmanship, the history, the ceremony, the attention to ceremonial details was just breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. There's just nobody does it like the Japanese. This is one of the gardens surrounding the Imperial Palace. It was hard to really capture the true beauty of it. It was just sculpted. There were literally people, groundsmen and groundswomen, using brooms, sweeping out the needles underneath trees. Like, they were literally like sweeping the ground to clean it. Everything was pristine and perfect. Everything was just so. They had they were trimming some trees that day too, and it was like a giant bonsai. It was just their landscaping details are just wow. I mean, the landscape was gorgeous, and you can see they grow grass on the bridges. The bridges are like grown to the ground. It's amazing. These are some more pictures of the Imperial Palace to the left. Actually, no, I'm sorry. No, these are not from the Imperial Palace. These are from a Zen Buddhist enclave north of the Imperial Palace that I just kind of read about and I decided to go to, and thank God I did, because yes, their temples and their shrines were out of this world. It was like a really tightly compact like enclave with like really like temples every like 10 feet in every direction. But then the cool part, the most peaceful place I've ever been was this urban bamboo forest, and these babies were probably like 80 feet tall, shimmering in the wind and kind of rustling and making this beautiful noise, peaceful noise of kind of bamboo swaying in the wind. And there was nobody there. I was kind of there by myself. I sat in this spot for probably 20 minutes, just taking it in. It was breathtaking, absolutely spellbinding. I just couldn't get enough of it. I wanted to be there forever. But I couldn't, obviously. I'm on vacation, got things to do, places to see. So I wandered some more, and this is all these photos are, I think, separate structures, which I didn't even see all of. I realized I was in over my head when it came to visiting shrines and temples in Kyoto. I had nowhere near enough time, but This is on the eastern side of the town. There's a whole section, one of many sections where there's just chock full of shrines and temples. And as you can see at the top right, that's a like a giant bell with a, and the same on the left, top left, top right. There's like a giant bell with with a log that you use to gong, kind of give it. Oh man, it was beautiful. The whole place was just gorgeous. Geishas walking around town, walking around talking on their cell phones, taking selfies, walking into convenience stores, and with this really interesting contrast of tradition, custom, costume, and this very antique look versus they're they're modern people and they exist in a modern world. But it was almost like like a juxtaposition to see them like doing these things that we're all doing as tourists, like taking photos and using your phone and then walking around in this just like historic work of art, like in human form. It was just very strange. I didn't want to really. They were taking pictures with everyone. I know they didn't mind if pictures were taken, but I didn't want to bother them for a picture. So I snapped this quick one from behind. They were just gorgeous. And this is two of thousands that I saw that day. I mean, they're literally everywhere. Statue of Buddha up against the hillside. I don't know as far as the world goes how big of one that is, but it was enormous. You can see it up against the hillside. It's like 150 feet tall. It was impressive. It was already closed for the day, so I couldn't go inside, but I got a good picture from away. But it was magnificent out of nowhere. This is the type of thing Kyoto is. This is the magical thing about Kyoto. You may not know something's there, and you walk up and you're just stunned by something that is an ancient work of art, and it was a phenomenal place to visit. Absolutely wonderful. Best walking tour of my life. And then I left Kyoto in order to go see Nara, which is actually the original. The first time that Japan was consolidated into a single country, it was actually in Nara was the capital. But today it's famous as kind of like a side trip from Kyoto because it's got one of the largest bronze Buddha statues in the world. So I decided to take a day trip. It was only about 45 minutes from Kyoto, so I took a train over there and wandered around in the morning. They have these like very strange domesticated deer that are like borderline pests. They are everywhere. They are not shy. They'll walk right up to you. They wouldn't bother you for food, but they're just so used to eating out of people's hands. They were mostly fat, and there's poop everywhere. It was kind of ridiculous. It was like as if like city park geese kind of got out of control, and they were deer. But there's one of the tallest pagodas in Japan, right there on the middle left top, and on the bottom there is the sanctuary for the Buddha, which was stunning. The statues to the left and the right were on the left and the right of the primary Buddha statue in the center. But I think they said it was the largest bronze Buddha in the world. And this picture doesn't do it much justice. It was enormous. There's one from the side. Very peaceful spot, minus all the tourists taking selfies, which was... I'm not going to get into that. It's a little annoying, but I mean, we're all tourists. I get, what it means to be a tourist, and everybody should be able to take photos. But there are definitely some people that I don't even think looked at the statues and were taking selfies of themselves. But that's all good. Lit some incense, stood off to the side. It was a very peaceful spot. Had a fabulous dinner in Nara that night. Had some sushi. The thing up to the bottom right are some fried rice balls, like pan-fried rice balls with chives and scallions and garlic and everything in them. The top right was a pork dish with oh man, I can't remember what was in it. But it was like a pan-fried pork dish. It was amazing. The sushi was great. I had some local sake that you see there in the middle of the top. The dish to the left was pickled octopus, I think, or squid. It wasn't my favorite. I can't say that octopus is my favorite. Ramen and gyoza on my way out from Nara. That's a pretty typical lunch there. Salad with some chicken in it, gyoza, and some delicious ramen. Very filling, rich, quick, easy, cheap, everything. And on the right there is a Buddha with deer antlers because that's like the Nara symbol, which I thought was interesting because I'm not sure that I saw any deer with antlers. Or like... Which, if they put, I don't know, like, why did they choose the antler aspect of the deer to combine with the Buddha? I don't know if the deer don't have antlers. I'm not sure, really. Maybe they're just out of season, I'm not sure. But anyhow, those things were everywhere, Buddha with antlers. Then, after Nara, I went back through Kyoto on the Shinkansen and headed back up to Tokyo for a few spectacular days in their main city. It was just out of this world. It just completely blew me away. I stayed in Ginza, which is right. So that right there in the middle, if you look, it doesn't look huge. That's a panorama, but that's the train station, Tokyo Station, and it is enormous. And that's just the above ground portion. There's a huge underground mall that goes for blocks and blocks and blocks with millions of people in it. I couldn't even believe the number of people inside. They're just like crowds of people. You can't stop in the hallways. People will like you'll start a traffic jam. It's amazing. But that's from the outside looking towards the east, and and then Ginza would be on the other side of it, so just behind the train station there. Some more pictures at night. Just a breathtaking city. Just beautiful. Just clean. I saw one homeless person my entire trip, and it was in Tokyo. Very safe, extremely wealthy, money everywhere, and people, just the population density, I've never seen anything like it. Tokyo was a trip. It was very futuristic, but elegant. These are some narrow pictures of some buildings, the architecture. They had nothing is super tall. They don't have like skyscrapers per se. I'd imagine, I don't know this, but I imagine it's due to the earthquakes. But these are about the standard size of standard like 12-story buildings. They don't really get too much taller than that. But the architecture every block had a work of art on it. I mean, it was really neat. This is a picture of like one of the main streets in Ginza that is like their Fifth Avenue. You have just luxury retail outlet after luxury retail outlet. And then in Ginza, this was so cool. I stayed in a bookcase hostel. This was like a dream of mine, is to stay in a tiny hostel in downtown Tokyo. In this was like the perfect spot for me. The bookcase. They called it book tea bed. It was quiet. It was quaint. They had a wide selection of books. I had brought my own, of course. So I had books to entertain myself. But my main problem with most hostels is that people kind of hassle you to socialize. And if you're not in a mood to socialize, then it's just kind of be frustrating. But this place was cool because everybody just like hibernated in their nook and read their books. It was cool. I loved it. I spent 2 nights there. $30 a night, downtown Tokyo. Couldn't beat it. It was just a dream come true. Here's some pictures from the fish market, which was right across the street. It was like 10-minute, 15-minute walk. But mochi balls in the top left. That's a crab bun in the bottom left. Amazing. So soft and billowy. That's grilled eel in the top middle. Pork dumplings on the top right. Those were huge. Actually, they don't look very big there, but they were enormous. And then those chests of tuna. Those are whole slabs of fresh tuna that were pulled out of the ocean that morning. Just unbelievable. And the market went on and on and on and on. You could wander around in it all day long. Various seafood products. Not sure what most of those are. And then the highlight of my entire trip, I would say, my favorite spot, dream come true, the Bonsai Village in Omiya, outside of Tokyo. About 45 minutes outside Tokyo by train, and you can walk there. This is the museum, so this is the Bonsai Museum. And then surrounding the museum, there are all these nurseries and art studios. I was only able to take a few pictures before I realized you're not allowed to take pictures. So keep in mind these are just in the foyer. These are like the intro pieces. And then the main pieces out in the courtyard were just world-class masterpieces of bonsai. Just jaw-dropping, stunning beauty, like in its prime form. It just absolutely perfect, world-class specimens. But the artistry, I mean, the sheer beauty that they wring out of these. It's a perfect marriage of natural and human beauty art put together. And just the attention to spatial relationships and framing it in its proper form. I mean, that's a Chinese kinsei, or I don't know how you pronounce it, kinsei tree on the left. That thing was just stunning, just perfect. It was like perfectly symmetrical. Like the branches reminded me of like neurons in a brain. These asymmetrical flowering. Oh my goodness, just I couldn't get enough of it. I spent 2.5 hours looking at probably 40, 50 pieces at this one museum. These are some pictures from outside. You can see that map on the right is in the neighborhood. So you see the neighborhood. There's like there's arrows to different bonsai nurseries in every single direction, and you're really not supposed to take pictures inside of them either. They say no photos everywhere, so I did want to respect their wishes with regards to that. So only took photos outside, but inside, just I if you would not even be able to truly really appreciate it until if you were to walk through that door and just go see what kind of treasures these people have hidden in these little neighborhood nurseries. Just and they had price tags on them. Some of them $7,000 to $10,000 for these 100-year-old trees crafted by artisans. I mean, just mind blowing. Absolutely perfect. Had a little surprise on the way back. I wasn't expecting, but on the way back from Omiya, I turned a corner and all of a sudden, through a park, didn't see anything, and all of a sudden this was there. Wonder if I can play the video. Yeah. Check this out, slow-mo video. One more time. Cool, right? Oh my God, this place was so rad. It was just like all of a sudden, this is a good anecdote for Japan. You can be walking through a park and enjoying the sunshine and not, thinking you're on your way anywhere in particular. Turn a corner and something jaw-dropping, something ancient, something traditional, something culturally rich, something just beautiful is there just for you to stumble upon. Japan has these little treasures everywhere, and this was such a sweet little surprise. I just sat there for probably 15-20 minutes watching these guys and gals do their bow practice. Some shots of food. Did I skip one? Hold on one sec. Some more food shots. I mean, I can't get over the food. That top middle one are omelets, actually. Japanese omelets are a very, very kind of intense, like, cultural product. I didn't expect that, but all those omelets have different, like, seafood stuffed in them. That's a curry in the middle bottom. I went out for a fancy dinner one night. That was lovely. Ramen at the airport on the top left with gyoza. I stopped at this lovely little coffee shop in Omiya near the bonsai place. Spent my last yen there, but they had fabulous coffee. Their coffee is really, if you go to a coffee shop, their coffee is awesome. My only thing is they give you small cups of it. I could drink like 3 times as much as they give you. Bottom right, that's a strawberry yogurt mochi ball, and it was amazing. It was melt in your mouth, delicious. And the bottom left was my airplane meal on the way back. I mean, tell me Delta or United has something like that. I mean, get out of here. Their airplane food was a whole nother scene. But honestly, everything I ate in Japan was just rich, flavorful, usually pretty sustainably sourced. A lot of the stuff came from really close by. And just an attention to detail and experience, the eating experience that, I want that to be part, the focus on experience, the experience of eating, whether it be visual, tactile, flavor. I wish that's something that the United States would put a little more emphasis on. It was just, it was a treat. It was like every meal was a work of art. Few things I bought. This is my sweet jacket. I bought this in Nagoya actually, so a few cities back, but it was on sale, 70% off, still expensive, but you know what, you gotta treat yourself when you're on vacation. Pretty pumped about it. I still haven't worn it, I'm afraid to wear it. My knife, I bought this at the fish market in Tokyo. This is a 33-fold Japanese cooking knife, and you can see kind of in the middle, the light's really bad here, but you can kind of see in the middle the Japanese kanji for the makers. They're based out of Tokyo, I asked, and they produce them right outside of Tokyo. Japanese steel, 33 folds, insanely sharp. I love it. It's my new daily habit to just find something to chop. There's some more pictures. Oh yeah, you can see the kanji a little bit better there. Also, I bought this pocket knife at kind of an impulse buy. I bought a couple of them at the market, and I gave one to my friend Steve, and I was going to keep the second one, but I decided my cousin Zach would enjoy it more, so I mailed it to him. And last but not least, my picture of gifts. This doesn't really do it all justice because there's crap piled underneath crap here, but I would say I probably spent a good $500-600 on gifts. Got a couple bottles of Japanese whiskey, you can see in the back here, 2 big bottles and a few small bottles of 12-year. The whiskey again can't rave enough about it, and it was all super reasonably cost. Got some bags. I got some wrapped gifts. I got a little earthenware crock pot. I got a little purse. I mean, I feel like I was in gift heaven. I really went a little crazy, but you know, when you never know what tomorrow may bring. If I never get to go back, I want to make sure that I did everything the way I wanted to do it, and that's the take home. I wanted to say that I feel so blessed to have taken this trip. It was everything I wanted. I got to do everything I wanted. Nothing went wrong. It was just the trip of a lifetime. And once again, if I could inspire anybody to take a trip to Japan themselves, you will not be disappointed. Everything was an A plus. Everything was so well done. The people were the friendliest, most gracious, humble, lovely people I've ever met. The food was out of this world. The shopping was almost too much fun. The bonsai was probably the single most beautiful place I've ever been. The bonsai village. Snowboarding. I mean, week one was a whole nother trip. But all in all, really just the trip of a lifetime. And so, thanks for following along. I'm sorry if these went a little long. You know, I like to talk, but I do appreciate you following along. And again, Japan is it's definitely